But again, like by having a niche, it means that people categorize you, and that's when they can say he does really good fire, he does really good fluids, or this guy here is really good at like doing Maya fluids or dynamics, or whatever it's going to be, end cloth, whatever you want to do. And again, this means people can quickly summarize, categorize, and put you in the position that you probably want to be in. And at the same time, like if there's something you don't want to do, I'll show you. I was talking about this on Thursday because we were talking about camera tracking in New York, and I said, look, I've never tracked a shot in my life. And everyone looks at me like, how has that ever happened? And this is because anytime someone put their hand up, like, can you track cameras? I'm like, I don't know how to do that. It's because I don't want to be stuck tracking cameras. So I don't need to worry about that these days. But again, it's just you can kind of direct your career into the areas that you want to do. And it's just better that way to kind of say, look, I can do this, but I really excel at this, and that way they're going to be more confident about doing that sort of thing. So it's just kind of important to do is just YouTube, you put your stuff out as many places as you can, but also redirect it back to your website. If you have an easy to get to website, because there's some people who, you're like, oh, how do you spell or pronounce that? And you want something that's easy to recognize, so that way people just instantly think, oh yeah, that guy, here's his website. It's just better that way. I mean, again, just having like a cool video. I don't want to tell 100 stories, but my first day at ILM, there's a guy who did this awesome tidal wave like video. It's like a making of this commercial he did at SciOp in New York, actually, where I'm at right now. And it was just like the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So my first day at ILM, basically, I was telling the guys there, because we're doing the big tsunami for The Last Airbender, and I was like, oh man, this is a really cool video I found. I'll try and find it. And I had a really hard time trying to find his video because he's German, so Florian Witzel is just not something that really sticks in my head. Whereas Bill Clinton or something like that would be a lot easier. But some simpler name, or at least a simpler website. It's like FlorianWitzel.com just doesn't ring out as much as like CoolWaveEffects.com or whatever you want to call it. So, or I like alcohol. I'm going to register that one later on. But you just want something that's easy to remember, and that way you can get to it very easily. And so what actually happened is that Florian came to me later in the day, and he's just like, Allan, like, I heard you're studying today, I just want to introduce myself, I'm Florian, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I used to work at SciOp. And I'm like, wait, you're not Florian Witzel? And he's like, yeah. He's like, dude, like, he's telling me, he's like, I love your work. I'm like, no, I love your work. And we started talking. But the best thing is, like, that video that I saw, it was like a year before that, it's just still stuck in my head as being something amazing. And you see that all the time on like CG Society and stuff like that. If you do a cool freaking video, that's going to get you recognition. And you also want to make sure your website is set up so that way when you get that recognition, you can then continue to get people to come to you and continue to see what you're doing. Like, oh, that guy did that thing, what else has he been doing lately? And you want to kind of continue to kind of drip feed that. So I'll get into that, but yeah, it's just really important to kind of have that where you want things to be viral, and that way everyone finds it, everyone finds a way back to you. And again, if you don't have that link or redirection back to you, then it's just going to be that video they saw on YouTube. They're not really going to follow up on it. So it's just kind of important to have that. Again, how am I doing with time? Holy crap. So I'm going to get through this really quick, but I'll say like getting noticed, there's a couple of key things. Is like hitting forums, even if you just like force yourself. I actually have like a calendar of stuff like every week reminders to like, okay, reply to emails because I don't want to do it too often. I just get stuck doing that otherwise. So I'll allocate an hour or two a week maximum on 2 different days for that. I'll try and do like 30 to 40 minutes of like forums, just answering questions and stuff like that too. Just stuff where, at least that way you're saying, okay, I'm going to devote this amount of time to doing this, and that way I can get more of a chance to get noticed. Like if you're on forums all the time answering people's questions, it also means that later if they're like, oh, we need someone at our studio to do cloth. It's like, well, this guy is really good on the forums, and apparently he's in this city or whatever. Let's find him to do this. So again, you're just kind of initially getting to do that sort of thing. And also just being recognizable with it. So again, putting your name up there, maybe a cool picture of you with a beer or whatever it's going to be. But it's something to, so that way visually, because again, at least with me, I don't associate text too much, but if I will recognize like someone's picture or something all the time, and that way you notice that you're competitively getting information from that person. And again, link to your website, stuff like that. I think that's really important. Man, I knew I would be able to get through as much, so I'm going to jump ahead to something that I find really, two things I find really important. One's cover letters, which you wouldn't think is actually an important thing, but I think this has actually become, especially recently, one of the most important things I've seen. If I can switch to slideshows for a second, into my laptop, if you guys can do that, please. Awesome. So I'm going to skip through all these notes that I haven't had a chance to cover. Originally it was going to be called Lots of Pictures of Alcohol. I was like, well, I'm going to put at least one in there. It's just evil twin brother, the Corona in the background. So, one thing I want to get to is my buddy Alex. So, this guy works for Blizzard Cinematics. He's worked on Superman, he's worked on all these big movies. He's a map painter. Really super talented guy. And for 2 years, he couldn't get work. He's been working in the industry for 8 years. And he couldn't get any work anywhere. And every time I talked to him, it's like, oh yeah, this didn't work out. I kept trying to get him jobs, and he kept fizzling through. And I'd seen his reel, I'd seen everything he's doing. So I kind of figured the only thing he'd be really screwing up is his cover letter. So I spoke to him and said, like, send me what you usually send employees, employers. And so he sent me this, which instantly I'm like, okay, no wonder you're not getting any work, because essentially what he's doing is saying, okay, well, here's my. Actually, I originally asked him to summarize it, so he said, like, here's my shit. Regards, Alex. So, again, it's elaborated a little bit more than that, thankfully, but it's not really something worthwhile. So anyone who sees this, instantly they're not going to see you as anyone else. They're going to be like, okay, another applicant, who cares? I'll put it in there, I'll have a look at it later time. They also don't know what he's doing, how much experience he is. So it could be like a student, he could be a veteran, you don't know. And also the fact that he's not really showing any communication skills is like, all these underlying things that instantly hit. And again, I never thought cover letters would be such an important thing, but now I can pretty much do, just wording things the way you want, you can get such a different response. So, this I literally wrote in about 4 minutes, and I sent it back to him. I won't repeat what he said to me when he saw it, because he was like, holy crap, but, there's a few racial slurs in there. Yeah, basically this was like a revised version I sent him. He sent this to Digital Domain, Sony, everywhere. Within 2 weeks, he had all these studios all over LA arguing and trying to get him onto their team. So he instantly went from not being employable to everyone literally fighting over him. And it's just because of a few key things. One of the main things is the fact that he introduces himself and he says, I just finished up a couple of projects. I guess I should say I said this, but yeah, basically by saying that, you're like, okay, I'm not unemployed, I haven't been sitting unemployed for a while. You don't need to be, descriptive about what you're doing. It's like, okay, I'm busy, I'm active, people want me. So just by saying that right away, it's like, okay, so I just want to shoot you an email. One thing I do find, because I get this a lot, is that if people email me and want something from me, there's just like more of a subconscious kind of burden you feel, like as if you have to respond, you have to give them something. If they're like, I want you to give me a job. So the worst thing I think you can do is kind of email someone and give them your life story and a picture of your dog, and then say like, can you, I need you to give me a job because it's my passion. You're going to fulfill my dreams or whatever. And that just suddenly feels like, okay, well, I just don't want the pressure. But if someone emails you, it's just like, hey, to let you know I'm here and this is what I do. People are going to be a lot more receptive to that. So anytime I go to interviews, anytime I have meetings or meet with anyone, I'm always very casual about it, because that way it's more, no one's going to feel like, oh, I can't talk to that person again until I have something for them. Instead they're going to be like, hey, let's shoot the shit and have a beer or whatever it's going to be. It's just a lot more, being casual just, I think, works a lot better in general. But basically he goes through what he does and he says, I put here basically, is there any positions available, preferably for the area that he wants, but because he's just looking for work in general right now, it's like preferably map painting, but anything. He's also experiencing this and this. This is his background. These are the films he's worked on. And then again, I just kind of, if I had a third hand, laser point over here, but in the second paragraph, it's like, right now I just want to shoot you an email to introduce myself, however anything pops up in the future, I'd love to talk, and here's all my stuff. And basically, again, being really humble at the end. And I mention all this just because it's something that I do without thinking these days. It's very automated, but when you break it down, there's a lot of stuff that's very crucial here. So again, being really relaxing. Right now, I just want to shoot you an email, no big deal, blah, blah, blah. Here's all my stuff, and also just being very humble about it too. So I'm saying, thanks for your time, and things like that. So here's another variation, which is kind of what I would do. And again, I think this is interesting because I'm always interested to see how other people apply for work. So, this is generally something, I just wrote this morning, and it's only the first 2 paragraphs of maybe 4. But these are really crucial for a couple of things I'll get into really, really quick. And again, the one thing is that I always finish an email just very humbly, like kindest regards and all that sort of thing. Usually I mention like, oh, I'm a really big fan of the stuff you guys do and I'd love to work with you. And those just help because while you're trying to talk yourself up, you don't want to sound like you've got a huge ego. So you don't want to talk and sound like you're trying to say that you're better than everyone and all this stuff. So by adding a few things that aren't kiss ass or anything like that, that is more there to kind of course correct any misinterpretation. Like if someone thought, yeah, this sounded like he's talked about himself too much or whatever, this comes back to being humble. You're kind of saying, okay, like, I really love your stuff and all this. It just means that anything does get misinterpreted, kind of fixes it. You know, so it's just again like a subtle thing, but this usually the first paragraph for me is kind of like a sales pitch. So there's a couple of things I'll do, and one is that the first paragraph is literally going to summarize everything I'm going to talk about, because if you're going through a crap load of emails and crap load of stuff, then usually you don't want to like fish through and kind of figure out like, you know, is this guy got experience or whatever. You want to be able to say, look, you know, it's kind of like an apartment summarize in 15 words about how great or whatever it's going to be. So essentially I'll say, my name's Allan, you know, I'm VFX Super or Senior TD or whatever I'm going to be doing. You know, this is how much experience I've got. I work such studios as this, this, and this. So again, it's just saying, okay, I've worked for a few that are pretty recognizable. And then primarily the area I work in, so then you're summarizing the type of work you do. So, and then some of the movies you've done recently, so that way you can go, oh cool, you worked on that, I wonder what you did on it, or whatever. So just in that one paragraph, it's usually going to catch someone's attention enough to, they'll know exactly what they're about to find out about you. It also means that they'll be interested in finding out more about you. Rather than like, oh, okay, I'll forward it to HR, who cares? You're like, oh, cool, this guy, yeah, I've seen this movie and I know this thing. Cool, he worked at that studio, he probably knows these people. So it's just a good summary, and I think this is the best way to do it. The other thing I want to mention here in the second paragraph is just something that I do in general, because it gives you a second chance to kind of sell yourself a little bit more, and that is that I'll use a kind of past, present, future thing. And again, it's more like anything. You want to sound like you're in high demand. You don't want to, I don't like to email people and be like, hey, I'm looking for work. And usually I'm not, but it's just I want to make contacts, so that way there's more positions available. So that way when I actually want to go somewhere, I can say, okay, well, there's 2 jobs in New York, 1 in LA. I live in LA. I wouldn't mind a vacation in New York. I'll go to New York for a bit. And actually that's what I'm doing in New York right now. I just figured I'd go out there to visit someone. So, you know, I took a job out there. I told them I want to go out to New York for a bit. They're like, okay, great. So they started bidding on jobs specifically so they had something to get me in for, which I thought was really cool. But it also meant that, great, I get a free paid trip to New York for a month or 2 so I can party and hang out with this person. So it worked out pretty well for me. It's just, again, by doing this, you're not locking in. Like if a job pops up you don't like, you can say, no, you're busy. But it does mean that it is available to do. It just gives you more opportunities and you're building a relationship with that studio without ever asking specifically for anything from them. But by doing this, you're saying, currently I just wrapped on this and I was doing film. So that way I'm saying, I just did this thing, currently I'm doing this. So I'm in the middle of wrapping up on Transformers or whatever. Currently I'm doing all this stuff. And then quickly I'm going to jump on this other thing. So what I'm saying is that I'm still busy doing stuff. So, you know, if you wanted me, you can't have me. But again, the key word here is quickly. So that way you can be like, well, how quick is quick? Because we need something in 2 weeks. Are you going to be available then? And you can be like, yeah, well, I can try and wrap up sooner or whatever. So, yeah, you know, quickly I'm going to do Operation Rally. And that's something. But that's just it. Like, that's just a formula that I tend to do all the time. It's just like a lot of things I get into just to do with communication. There's a lot of things that are very carefully put, and it just changes how you present it completely by doing that. So again, just by even saying that you're going to jump on another thing, it means that you're always jumping around, you're always busy, and that way people are going to be like, wow, well, we want to get you in. And then from there, yeah, again, I'm just trying to be casual, saying, you know, let me know if anything pops up in the future, rah, rah, rah. Cool. So I'm going to talk really, really quick. I only go through like a 30% of what I want to get through. And again, it's such a crazy topic, but there's so much there. So I will jump into 1 or 2 things more quickly just now. But again, a couple other things about this is like social networking. If you get on LinkedIn and all these other things, everything has statuses these days. So you can use it to be like, I'm here with my puppy and we're going to throw the frisbee around. Or you can use it to actually promote what you're doing. So anything that you're doing is really exciting. You can say, okay, so I'm going to fly to Dallas to give a presentation over here. Or I'm going to be going to New York and going to LA or whatever it's going to be. And by doing that, it means that people are actively, get updates, like free advertising of what you're doing. So suddenly they're like, wow, that guy gets around, he's doing all this stuff. Just finished up on Transformers, just about to jump onto this project. So suddenly, people start paying attention, like, man, that guy's really busy, we should get him in. And it's funny because it actually does work. And I get a lot of emails now where people are kind of like, man, like, what city are you in? Even when I went back to LA, they're like, how long are you here for? I'm like, I live here, what do you mean? But then I left like 2 weeks later. So, but just in general, and like, if you work in movies, IMDb, it's like the new kind of resume. Everyone checks IMDb. So it's like, no matter what, you want to update that and have a profile for that. You pay like $20 a month and kind of get that to be customized. So again, you put up photos of you having a beer or whatever it's going to be. There's just a lot of stuff, like networking in general. Like if you want to organize, and a good way to generate contacts in your city is to go and organize like industry drinks or something like that. So that way you can, get everyone together and get all the studios together just by emailing the studios to say I'm organizing this event. That way you can begin to generate business. I've known a few people who have done that, and it's worked really well for them. They went from having zero experience to getting a break in a studio just because everyone got to know them, and they're like, oh, well, let's get you in and let's see what happens. So there's just stuff like that, and I could go on forever, but yeah, just in general, just kind of really treating yourself as a business is like a key thing. Actually, one quick story I'll give, and then I'm done. I swear, I promise. But what was really funny is there's a couple of guys out here in Dallas that I think everyone knows. But what was interesting is that they were looking for work in LA, and this is a very common thing. LA, New York, everyone keeps to themselves. They don't communicate. They don't want to hire from outside because they're very confident they can get people from that city. So they were looking in LA, and I've done similar, and it's actually a really interesting thing to do. They were applying everywhere, and not really. Everyone's going to like get here, and then we'll hire you, but we don't want to offer you a job until we know that you're here. So they end up getting LA numbers, just like a 310 or whatever Skype number. Everyone knows this. So that was the thing, is like instantly both of them got jobs within a week because they're like, oh yeah, I'm in LA, and like one of them, he went for an interview and he just flew in for the interview. So they thought he was like driving in, like traffic was bad from Burbank. It's like, no, traffic was bad from LAX. So, that was cool though, because by doing that, taking that initiative, again, it's just one of those key things, taking initiative to do it. Like no one even knew that they were like living in Texas, so that weekend or whatever they flew back, got this stuff, and suddenly they got jobs in LA, whereas before it was like hitting a brick wall. But again, it's just using that initiative and taking control of it. And so, like I said, I haven't really gone through as much as I wanted, but tomorrow I'm going to be doing actual 3D stuff, so it's going to be more like, hey, how do I glue crap up, and can you show me some hands-on stuff. But if you guys have any questions, I don't think we have time for Q&A, but if you want to...
Afterwards. We do the panel afterwards. So.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll try and keep sober till then. I won't miss out. But thanks again, guys. Hopefully you kind of